Every morning at 5:45, before his feet even hit the floor, Daniel checked his balance. Same amount, give or take a few dollars, for 4 years straight. Maybe you know that feeling, the specific dread of a number that never moves no matter how hard you work. Maybe you've pulled double shifts and still missed the one bill that actually mattered. Maybe you've told someone, "I've got you," and meant it completely, and come up short anyway. Here's what nobody tells you. It's not that you're not trying. You keep restarting before the first small thing has time to actually work. His name was Daniel, and the night his bike chain snapped in the freezing rain was the same night he broke a promise to his little sister, and finally understood why 4 years of checking that same number every morning had never once changed it. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll never look at a slow, ordinary day the same way again. Daniel Cole was 29 years old, and every day of his life ran on the same loop. 5:45 a.m., alarm, and the balance check. 6:15, clip into his pedals. 6:20, first delivery ping. For the next 11 hours, he rode burritos, groceries, pharmacy bags, even a wedding cake once, balanced on his handlebars, looping through the same 22 blocks of downtown Portland, over and over, until his legs stopped feeling like legs. He'd been doing this for 4 years, ever since he dropped out of community college halfway through his second year, not because he failed a single class, but because the tuition bill and his father's raised eyebrow at the kitchen table finally won. He'd never actually added up the miles, but some nights, lying on his mattress with his legs still buzzing, Daniel would picture it anyway. Enough riding to cross the country and back, more than once, and his bank balance hadn't moved an inch the whole time. He was moving constantly and going nowhere. A wheel spinning an inch off the ground. Every few months, Daniel tried to break out of the loop, a reselling scheme that ate $600 of savings, a crypto app that burned 3 weeks of tips in 11 days, a video channel he quit after 4 uploads and quietly deleted. Each attempt lasted about 2 weeks. Each one ended the same way, Daniel telling himself the idea was wrong, when really, he'd never once finished a single loop of anything. The only thing Daniel never quit on was his sister. Mia was 17, sharp, and drew constantly. On napkins, on the backs of receipts, on the inside covers of her textbooks. She'd found a regional art scholarship program on her own, filled out half the form herself before she even told him about it, and asked if he could cover the application fee. $75, due by midnight on Friday. "I've got you," Daniel told her. "I promise." He meant it. He just didn't have a plan for how. Friday came in the kind of cold rain that gets into your gloves before it gets to the ground. Daniel was 3 deliveries from having the fee in hand, tips stacking up all evening, close enough he could taste it, when he stood on the pedals to take the Burnside Hill, and his chain, worn thin from 4 years of hard riding and no real care, snapped clean in half. The bike lurched. Daniel didn't. He went over the handlebars and skidded across the wet asphalt, and his phone flew out of his jacket pocket and cracked hard against the curb, screen splintering into a spiderweb of glass. It could still take a call. The answer button sat higher on the screen, in glass that had survived, but the gig app's accept button lived down in the exact corner that hadn't, and the app was locked to portrait mode. No matter which way he turned the phone, that button stayed dead. He sat in the rain for a full minute before he could make himself move. No working touchscreen meant no more deliveries tonight, and no deliveries meant he was still short. His checking account held $11, and midnight was less than an hour away. He thought about calling around, Marcus maybe, or Tay, but it was closing on midnight. They'd be grinding through their own last runs and asking to be spotted $75 by text from guys who tipped each other in loose change some weeks themselves. Felt like a bigger ask than it should have. He could have called his dad, but asking would mean admitting his dad had been right about something, and tonight, pride cost more than $75. Mia's payment link was still open on his cracked lock screen when the countdown hit 0. Daniel watched it happen from the curb. She didn't complain when he told her. She just said, "It's fine, there's always next year," in a voice that made it very clear it was not fine. His phone rang 20 minutes later. His dad. Daniel let it ring twice before picking up. "Your sister told me," his dad said. No anger in it. Worse, just tired. 4 years, Daniel. 4 years of pedaling as hard as anyone I know. And you're exactly where you started. You're not going anywhere, son. You're just spinning your wheels. He hung up before Daniel could answer, mostly because Daniel didn't have one. He pushed the bike 11 blocks to the only repair shop still open. The man behind the counter was maybe 60, gray stubble, forearms like rope, grease worked deep into his knuckles, stitched crooked onto his shop coat. Frank. Frank looked at the snapped chain, looked at Daniel's face, and didn't ask what happened to the bike. He asked, "What happened to you?" Daniel, soaked, still shaking off the cold, out of excuses, told him everything. The dropped-out semester, 4 years of gig work, every failed side hustle, his dad's voice on the phone 20 minutes earlier. Frank listened without interrupting, turning a grease-dark rag between his hands. When Daniel finished, Frank pulled a photograph off the wall, faded, curling at the corner. A younger version of himself in a cycling jersey, mid-pack in a long line of riders. 1991 Cascade Classic, Frank said. Never won a single race in 11 years of trying. He set the photo down. But I outlasted almost every rider in that photo who was faster than me. You know why? Daniel shook his head. Because they were sprinting, flat out, until their knees or their lungs gave. I held the same pace, rain or not. By year 5, most of them had quit racing. I was still on the road. Frank flipped Daniel's bike upside down and turned the pedal crank slowly, with one grease-stained finger, walking him through it piece by piece. Every rider who's ever gone anywhere on one of these does the same 4 things, in the same order, over and over. Watch. He tapped the front wheel. You point this before you push a single pedal. Not 10 directions today and 10 more tomorrow. 1. He tapped the crank. Then you push it right. A full stroke, not some frantic half push because you're in a hurry. He pulled the chain taut between 2 fingers. Then you hold it. The chain's got to keep tension through the hill, through the rain, through the day your legs are begging you to quit. He spun the rear wheel, and it kept turning, smooth, long after his hand let go. And then tomorrow, you do the same 4 things again, not a new plan. The same one. You've had 4 years of energy, Daniel. That was never the problem. Your problem is you kept starting a new loop every 2 weeks instead of finishing one. He nodded at the photo, still face up on the counter. Same shape, every single day, for 11 years straight. That's how a mediocre racer outlasts a talented one. Daniel didn't have a name for what Frank had just described. Not yet. He'd give it one later, on the nights those 4 things were the only thing keeping him moving. Think right, execute right, persist, repeat. 1 loop a day doesn't feel like it goes anywhere, Daniel said. Fair, Frank said. So don't feel it. Do the math instead. He grabbed a pencil, flipped over a work order. One full turn of the pedals, in the gear you ride most, moves this bike about 6 meters. Feels like nothing. He tapped the paper. 80 turns a minute. Easy pace. 30 minutes straight. That's 2,400 turns. A little over 14 kilometers. Nobody teleported there. 6 meters. Looped 2,400 times. Daniel looked at the number differently now. Not as a brag, but as proof. Okay, he said quietly. What about me? Frank wrote a second number below the first. 1% sharper, 1% more disciplined, every single day, for 91 days. 1.01 to the 91st power. He worked it out on the paper. Not a promise. I can't hand you an income number off a pencil. Proof of the shape. By day 91, you're 2.5 of who you are right now. More than double. Not from one leap. From 91 loops you didn't quit on. Frank fixed Daniel's chain for the cost of the part alone. Nothing for labor. And said one more thing before Daniel wheeled the bike toward the door. 91 days. 13 weeks exactly. Start to finish. Same night of the week you're standing here right now. 13 weeks from tonight. He looked at Daniel evenly. One loop, same shape, every day. Pick the one right direction. Do it correctly. Hold the tension when it's hard. And come back tomorrow and do it again. If you're not serious, don't bother. I've watched enough people quit by day 4 to know the difference in a man's eyes. It landed harder than Frank could have known. 13 weeks from tonight was almost exactly when the scholarship program's next application window would reopen. Mia's real shot, the one after the one he'd already missed. Daniel picked one direction, not 5. Instead of scattering across all of downtown chasing every delivery ping, he committed to becoming the fastest, most reliable courier in a single 2-mile zone, the restaurant-dense stretch around Burnside. Think right. He spent his lunch breaks watching free routing videos, learning traffic light timing, and one-way shortcuts other couriers ignored, and kept a scorecard in a $3 notebook. On-time rate, tips, one route tweak tested each week. Execute right. Week 2, it rained for 6 straight days. His legs ached. A customer stiffed him on a tip after he arrived 2 minutes late through a flooded intersection, and every instinct told him to skip a day. He didn't. Persist. Every night, one more line in the notebook. Today's loop. Done. Repeat. By week 6, an old habit crept back. A friend messaged him about a guaranteed reselling opportunity, and for 2 days, Daniel felt the old pull, the itch to abandon the loop for something that felt faster. He almost did it. Then he thought about the number on Frank's work order, 2.5. He was still less than halfway to day 91. He deleted the message and kept looping. Around day 50, something shifted that Daniel couldn't explain with numbers. He caught himself climbing the Burnside Hill, the same hill that had snapped his chain, without his legs shaking. His body had stopped fighting the loop and started trusting it. His on-time streak put him at the top of the app's priority queue for his zone, which meant first pick on the highest tip orders. A couple of the smaller independent restaurants started keeping his number by the register for their late rush, an extra cash tip, off the clock, nothing official. And most evenings, Frank let him use the shop's spare bench after hours, in exchange for sweeping up, to patch tubes and true wheels for other couriers for cash between his own runs. 0 capital of his own, just the loop, applied a second time. There were still bad days. Week 9, he blew a tire on the exact hill that had started this whole story, and for about 10 minutes, standing in the same spot, he felt every old doubt come rushing back. But he didn't call it a sign this time. He called it a bad afternoon, patched the tube with the skill Frank taught him, and finished the loop. Some weeks before, he'd cleared maybe $300 after gas and the bike payment. By week 10, the zone priority, the off-the-books tips, and the weekend repair work were stacking almost that much again on top, most weeks. By day 70, Daniel had a savings cushion for the first time in 4 years, $1,200. The scholarship portal reopened 91 days later, the same night of the week Frank had circled on a work order 13 weeks earlier. Daniel submitted the $75 fee before Mia even woke up that morning. Then he did something he hadn't planned. He bought her a proper portfolio case, the good archival kind, so her drawings wouldn't get creased in transit. Mia found it on the kitchen table with a note. Same loop every day. Love you. That Sunday, Daniel invited his father over, told him he wanted him to see something. On the table, the $3 notebook, 91 straight lines of today's loop. Done. Next to a clean ledger of 3 months of steady courier earnings and weekend repair work. His father read through it twice and said the only thing that mattered: you didn't go anywhere for 4 years, and now look at you. Then, quieter, the closest he'd come in 4 years to bringing up the tuition bill that started all of it. Maybe I shouldn't have made you choose back then. I'm sorry I called it spinning your wheels now. It was, Daniel said. I just didn't know a wheel has to spin to go anywhere. 6 weeks later, Mia's acceptance email came in, while she and Daniel were splitting a pizza on his kitchen floor, boxes finally gone from the corner where they used to pile up. She read it out loud twice before either of them believed it. Here's what Daniel learned, and what I need you to hear. Progress was never a straight line. You were never supposed to leap from where you are to where you want to be in one heroic push. It's a loop. 4 steps, the same shape, every single day. Think right. Choose one direction, not 10 half-started ideas. Execute right. Do the thing correctly, not frantically, not for show. Persist. Hold the tension when it's raining, when your legs shake, when nobody's watching. Repeat. Tomorrow, the same loop, not a new one. You don't need one big leap. You need 91 loops you don't quit on. It's not a promise that the math hands you an exact outcome. Frank never claimed that. It's proof that small, repeated, and unglamorous beats big, occasional, and abandoned. 2.5 times who you started as, and nobody feels it happening in any single rotation. You only see it after the last one. So here's my question for you, the same one Frank asked Daniel. What's the one direction you've been too scattered to choose? Pick it today. Do it correctly. Hold on when it's hard. And tomorrow, same loop. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a loop. And every rotation you don't quit on moves you forward, even on the days you can't feel it. If this loop is one you needed today, hit like. And down in the comments, finish this sentence. The one direction I'm choosing is. I'll be reading them. Know someone who's been sprinting in 10 directions and going nowhere? Send them this video. Subscribe if you want to keep looping with us. See you in the next one.